In this episode, I want to help you consider how your life purpose and mission may need to adapt as you transition to the final third of your life. We'll discuss issues relating to our calling and our vision and how these will impact the goals that we still have for our life. Some of the tools offered will be a timeline and a life purpose statement. As we go through this process, my hope is that we will discover that we are better prepared to fulfill the purposes that God still has for our life.
Welcome to our Leadership Matters podcast. Phil has had the privilege of mentoring leaders and coaching ministry teams around the world for several decades, and he's really looking forward to sharing with you some of the principles that others have found helpful over the years. To access all of our podcasts as well as our leadership resources, just click the links in the description box or go to icmcanada.org/leadershipmatters. If you want a copy of this complete study, just click on the link to download it. Now let's join Phil for this episode.
Well, with only 2 episodes left, we're getting to the end of our series. I hope you have found this series helpful as you consider where you have been and any changes you may need to make moving forward. If you have a copy of the workbook, we're now going to be starting on page 55. Now, having a personal mission or calling is something we need at every stage of life, from youth to our older age. Without a purpose, hope in the future is kind of impossible. And without hope in the future, really, what reason is there for faith to believe in anything? This purpose or mission may be a continuation of our life's calling, but it also may require some changes as we age. This will also likely involve a change in the how or the strategy of fulfilling that mission. It can be very helpful during this season to revisit or update our own timeline, as well as our own biblical life purpose. A personal timeline can be a helpful tool to identify the context of what God has been doing in our life and what He still may want to do. The timeline is basically a succinct, organized outline of our life. On one row, we list the key incidents from our personal and professional experiences, and in another row, the major roles we have had and during each phase of our life, and then the spheres of influence and those who have influenced us as mentors and coaches. The goal is to prayerfully consider what values or lessons God was teaching us throughout every season or phase of life, and we'll start seeing some patterns. This does not happen in one sitting, and it probably will take several months to put down. And we provided this actually in our Mentoring Through Intentional Relationships Guide 1, if you'd like to use it there in that model, or you can get it separately from our website. You can just go there and download that. Our timeline can also help us identify our life purpose. We have been using the term calling, and I specifically use it here to identify what we do. Our purpose is the why, rather than just the what. And then our vision is what will be the result or what it will all look like. So our calling and purpose will actually be expressed then in our vision. We'll discuss this in more detail in this episode, but the first step is to consider what our purpose is. Why do we exist? This is not so much what we do, but our overall reason to be. Let's pause for a moment here and review. Well, what is your mission? What is the same and may need to change as you enter the final stages of your life and ministry? And if you've not done so, do a timeline and reflect on what you have learned by studying how God has led you up to this point. And what has been your life purpose, and how may this need to adapt as you move forward? I would suggest that there's quite a difference between being called and being driven. We all know people in our lives who are driven by either an inner ambition or even a sense of duty to accomplish something. While we may admire such drive, I think it's helpful to consider if we are being driven by vain ambition or even a duty out of guilt. The contrast is being motivated by a calling, which has a completely different motivation and is much healthier, I would suggest. A calling is an inner motivation that is based upon God's plan for our lives, rather than just our plan for our lives. It is multifaceted as it is a combination of our interests, our natural abilities, our unique gifts, and special competencies that we've acquired over the years. If we come to this stage of our life feeling tired and drained, it's possible that we've been driven by ambition or perhaps a false sense of duty rather than following God's call for our lives. And if this resonates with you in any way, now may be a good time to do whatever is necessary to return to a contentment in our calling. Rather than just being driven by unhealthy motives, we need to return to what God's purpose is in our lives, His calling. At this stage of life, we may need to reconsider our current calling and how this relates to what we have done up to this point in our lives. While the two may be similar, the past and the present, since we have the same giftings and personality and so on, it's likely that there will be some differences as our roles change and we assess the limitations during the season. At this stage of life, it is usually not an easy thing to adjust aspects of our calling. After all, we've become quite proficient at what we do in our career and our ministry. This means that we can probably function a bit on autopilot in the area of our strengths. While on one hand this can be efficient and productive, we have to make sure we are relying on God and not just functioning on our own strength and wisdom. This is why we need to reevaluate and adjust during the season. Instead of just plying full speed ahead, we may need to pause long enough to consider what our life purpose and mission is and how this will inform our understanding of our calling moving forward. We may find ourselves discouraged with our ministry and our life and the way it's unfolded. So we may need to regroup and rethink our future priorities. Alternatively, if life and career have been exceeded our expectations, we may need to redefine what success looks like in fulfilling God's calling in our lives moving forward. As the runway shrinks, it'll become even more important to have a time of introspection in order to prioritize what we will do in this last stage of our life and ministry. So when it comes to calling, are you discouraged as to how your life or ministry has gone, or have your expectations of life, ministry, and career been exceeded? And how does your answer impact your calling moving forward? What aspects of your calling are the same, and what needs to change as you finish your race? And maybe spend some extended time with the Lord so that He can reveal His calling on your life as you finish your race.
To view or listen to any of Phil's other podcast series, visit icm.org/Leadership Matters. His Mentoring Intelligence series discusses issues of servant leadership and how to leave a legacy by investing in others. Other series include a study of how to develop and manage multicultural teams, a series to strengthen your marriage, the first team, as well as a discussion of how to implement the equipping gifts in a local church. You could also check out our CLI, Christian Leadership Institute, which is a unique competency-based ministerial training program. To download any of our resources associated with these series, visit our library of materials at icm.org/resources.
Well, before the break, we have been discussing our mission and calling and how this may shift during the last third of our productive lives. While these terms are kind of used interchangeably by various authors, I've tried to define them here for our purposes. The overall goal of helping you regain vision and meaning in your life is more important than the nuances of the terms themselves. The practical tools then can help us, that I've mentioned are like the life purpose statement and the timeline. These can help us in this process. I find that I've revisited and worked these at various stages of my own life, and both personally and professionally. Vision is the result of our life purpose and calling. Vision has to do with a new challenge or dream. Particularly if we have been successful and effective in our lives, we may arrive at this time in our life and realize that we need a new vision. If we have achieved all or many of our goals, we may find ourselves lacking motivation, maybe having less drive in life. Visions are like big goals, not just for a day, a month, or a year, but something that God still has for us to accomplish in our lifetime. We see Moses, even at 80 years of age, having a modified vision of what God had been preparing him for his whole life. He had spent 40 years in Pharaoh's household in Egypt, and then 40 years in the desert with God. Who knows? God may have needed 40 years to undo some of what he learned in the first 40. But altogether, God is preparing him through these first 80 years of his life for what he wanted him to do in the final 40 of his life. Everything before he was the Moses that we know, leading the children of Israel, was preparation for this true life calling. Remember, God usually saves the best for last, from wine at weddings to callings in our lives. But like Moses, God allows us to go through many circumstances throughout life in order to mold us into the image of His Son. Many of these events have likely been confusing and perhaps even painful, but they all have been designed by God to make us into the person we are today. And God wants to now take the person that we have become and give us a new vision that will give us motivation and passion to finish the race He has given us to run. Maybe now let's take some time to consider what your vision is for the final leg of your race. In what ways does this take into consideration your stages of life and limitations? And if you've adjusted your vision to focus on relationships that are important to you during this time, what steps will you take to make sure this happens? Now, goals relate to the how of the vision. They put meat on the bones, so to speak. How will we go about accomplishing our vision? Taking into consideration our current realities and our limitations, what are the strategies that will be necessary to accomplish the vision that God still has for us to fulfill? While goals are helpful as measurable markers of our vision, it is important to remain flexible in determining and implementing them. They need to serve the calling and vision, not be the driver of our calling. For example, we shouldn't get locked into our goals and then try to make our calling fit into them. In other words, we don't want to get locked into the how of what we are doing and forget the why. This is particularly important during the last third of our lives in ministry, as we have less time to get it right. While our vision may remain somewhat constant throughout our lives, it is very likely that we'll have to make some changes in our goals in order to accomplish the big picture during the latter season of life. So why not write down your goals or ways that you will accomplish your vision for the last segment of your ministry and life? Maybe prayerfully think through each of these areas as you consider what God still has for you to accomplish. In episode 10, you may recall that we discussed the two commissions and the two commandments. We saw that the Great Commission in Matthew, making disciples of all people, should flow from the Great Commandment to love the Lord our God with all our heart and mind and soul. We also saw that making the world a better place, indicated by the Cultural Commission in Genesis, should only flow from Jesus' new commandment of loving each other. So in light of this, we have taken some time to reconsider our mission in this latter stage of life in this episode. This included looking at our life purpose, our calling, our vision, and the resultant goals to achieve that purpose. While these are separate from each other, they need to be considered and implemented together. Now in our final episode, I want to encourage you to be full of vision and hope even as you age. I hope that your life will leave the legacy that God intended when He created you. It's going to be good and as we wrap up, and so I hope you'll be able to join me then.
Thank you for listening to Leadership Matters. If this has been helpful, please remember to like, subscribe, and share us. Doing this will enable others to benefit from this material as well. And remember, if you would like to have your own copy of this study, just click on the link in the description box, and for any of our other leadership resources, go to our website, icmcanada.org/resources.